The shuttle, a corporate standard-issue courier, docked with Astraeus-7 in the deep black of the Kuiper Belt. Kaelen Vance, corporate security officer, reviewed the mission parameters: minor incident, containment, and assessment. The vagueness of the report was, in itself, a breach of protocol. Astraeus-7's main docking bay was pristine, yet profoundly silent. Kaelen's boots echoed on the polished deck plating as he performed his standard security sweep, his suit's internal diagnostics confirming air purity and structural integrity. No automated welcome, no distant chatter from a control tower. The station's usual symphony of industrious hums was replaced by an almost imperceptible, eerie stillness. As he neared the main airlock, an automated message finally cycled. A pre-recorded welcome from Dr. Aris Thorne, Astraeus-7's lead scientist. The voice was warm, professional, but tinged with a strange, almost ghostly echo, as if speaking from a great distance. The central hub, typically a nexus of scientific activity, was deserted. Kaelen's lamp swept across overturned chairs, a half-eaten nutrient paste forgotten on a console, an open research datapad displaying indecipherable glyphs, evidence of life. Abruptly ceased. He attempted to access the station's central logs, but his suit's UI returned corrupted file errors, a glaring red flag in his meticulous corporate mind. Proper documentation was paramount. The lack of it, coupled with the absence of any personnel, grated on his sense of order. Beneath the silence, a faint, almost imperceptible hum resonated through the station's very bones, a deep vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. A heavily reinforced door, emblazoned with corporate biohazard symbols, blocked the corridor leading to the bioresearch labs. Kaelen accessed his suit's override, inputting his credentials. Accessing restricted zone. Authorization Vance. Kaelen, corporate security. Level 4. The system whirred, lights flashing red, then amber, then a hesitant green. Each click and grind of the locking mechanisms felt amplified in the oppressive quiet, stretching into tense minutes. The low hum he'd noticed earlier intensified, a subtle thrumming in his teeth. Then, with a final metallic sigh, the massive door slowly, reluctantly, began to retract, revealing only unsettling darkness beyond. Kaelen stepped into Bioresearch Lab 3, his suit's powerful lamp cutting a stark beam through the pervasive gloom. Emergency lights, sporadic and weak, barely illuminated the cavernous space. And then he saw it. The walls, the floor, the consoles, the very air filtration units, all were covered in a shimmering, iridescent growth. It wasn't organic in any familiar sense, but a crystalline lattice that pulsed with a faint, internal bioluminescence, like a monstrous, alien coral breathing in the low light. The minor incident report now felt like a grotesque understatement. This was not merely an incident, it was an infestation. Kaelen Vance moved deeper into Bioresearch Lab 3, the beam of his suit lamp cutting through the gloom like a scalpel. The strange, sweet scent in the air intensified, cloying and unnatural like decaying flowers. His boots crunched softly on the crystalline carpet that now coated every surface. Then, his beam caught it. A form, unmistakably human, half submerged in the shimmering growth. Dr. Elena Rostova, her face a mask of silent terror, eyes wide and lifeless, crystalline filaments weaving through her hair, merging with her skin. Her hand was encased, reaching for a console, now just another part of the living wall. Kaelen's corporate training, a lifetime of rigid adherence to protocol, screamed for him to document, to analyze, to categorize. But the site defied every classification. This wasn't just Growth Corporate Station, it was Growth more junk of the station. The crew hadn't simply vanished, they had been consumed, integrated. The faint hum that had followed him since docking intensified, not a mechanical drone, but something organic, almost melodic, resonating from the crystal itself. The air around Dr. Rostova's crystalline remains felt colder, despite the pervasive hum. Kaelen stood motionless, his breath fogging his visor. His comms crackled faintly, and for a fleeting moment, a whisper brushed against his auditory sensors. Kaelen. It was barely audible, a soft, ethereal sigh. He blinked, shaking his head. Suit malfunction. Auditory ghosting from the station's dying systems. His diagnostics showed no anomalies. Yet, a chill, colder than the Kuiper Belt void, traced a path down his spine. The voice, impossibly, had been familiar. A ghost from a past he had meticulously buried beneath layers of corporate duty and self-imposed numbness. A sudden, sharp memory flashed. Alara, his wife, her gentle hand on his, her voice, a melody. He pushed it down, hard, impossible. The station was playing tricks on his mind. He focused on the crystal, on the grotesque reality before him. Anything to escape the insidious echo of a memory. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Kaelen pushed past Rostova's chilling tableau. He searched for Dr. Eris Thorn, the lead xenobotanist. He found him deeper within the lab, near the central research console, almost entirely subsumed by the bloom. Thorn was a grotesque monument of crystalline flesh, his hand frozen inches from an emergency data port. Unlike Rostova, Thorn's expression was not just terror, but a desperate, final plea. Kaelen, his fingers numb with morbid fascination, managed to pry a corrupted data chip from the console. As he did, the whispers returned, no longer singular, but a faint, indistinct chorus. A murmur of voices, like a distant, ethereal crowd, swirling just at the edge of comprehension. He clutched the data chip, a desperate anchor in a sea of impossible horror. His mind raced, desperate to analyze, to understand, to find a logical explanation for the growing cacophony that now seemed to emanate from the very walls. Back in his shuttle cockpit, Kaelen converted the space into a makeshift command center. Data screens glowed, illuminating his grim face as he worked to decrypt Thorn's chip. Fragmented notes, hastily compiled, flickered across his HUD. Crystalline fungal organism, non-carbon-based, rapid growth and absence of light, consumes biological matter at cellular level. Kaelen's mind, trained for efficiency, processed the horrifying scientific data. A parasitic life form, thriving in darkness, but then a final corrupted entry. Mimicry, voices, they know, they speak to me. Kaelen paused, his internal monologue swift and dismissive. Stress-induced psychosis. Thorn, trapped and consumed, had clearly succumbed to the psychological pressure. The whispers he'd heard earlier, the fleeting echo of Alara, just his own mind, reeling from the shock. He focused on the cold, hard science. This was a biological threat, not a supernatural one. He had to contain it. Kaelen was compiling his preliminary report for corporate HQ when the station's internal comms crackled. He dismissed it as static, another system dying. Then, a voice, clear and gentle, undeniably Alara's, filled his cockpit. Asterisk. Kaelen, why did you leave? The words hit him like a physical blow. His hand froze on the console. This wasn't a malfunction. This wasn't a trick of his mind. The voice was too perfect, too real, laced with the familiar ache of old grief. His professional composure, a fortress built over years of discipline, shattered. He slammed his fist on the comms panel, trying to trace the source, to find a rational explanation, but his hands trembled. The whispers were real, and they knew him. They knew his deepest wound, and they were targeting him with surgical, terrifying precision. Astraeus-7 wasn't just infected, it was predatory. Kaelen Vance sat hunched in his shuttle cockpit, the comms link to corporate HQ established, but lagging through the vast, cold emptiness of the Kuiper Belt. He drafted his report with rigid precision, each word a bulwark, against the raw, impossible truth he'd witnessed. Astraeus-7 Incident Report, Vance K. Security Officer. Observed extensive crystalline growth, non-biological, pervasive throughout Bioresearch Lab 3. Science team, identified as Dr. Thorn, Dr. Rostova, and 4 others, found assimilated into growth structures. Containment protocols initiated. He omitted the whispers, the chilling echo of Alara's voice, the phantom touch of Leo's hand. Those were not for corporate records. The delay from HQ was agonizing, a sterile void of indifference. When the response finally came, it was an automated directive, focusing on asset protection and Level 3 biohazard containment. no acknowledgement of the grotesque horror. Just procedure. His teeth clenched, a familiar corporate frustration battling a fresh, personal terror. Following the corporate directive, Kaelen returned to Astraeus-7's bio-containment sector. The sterile, metallic corridors felt like a mockery of safety. He deployed the containment fields around Bio-Research Lab 3, shimmering barriers of energy designed to seal off hazardous materials. He watched the projections on his HUD, the force fields snapping into place with satisfying mechanical clicks. But even as the fields materialized, he saw it. Subtle crystalline tendrils, already breaching minor structural integrity points, pushing through hairline cracks in the reinforced walls. The bloom was not merely contained, it was observing. A new chorus of whispers, faint but insistent, slithered into his comms. "Don't trap us. Don't leave us, Asterisk." It was a desperate plea, unnervingly human in its fear. Kaelen felt a cold dread solidify. This wasn't just a biological hazard. This was a asterisk living entity, and it was already far beyond any standard protocol. His duty felt increasingly like a futile gesture against an unstoppable tide. Driven by an instinct he couldn't articulate, Kaelen moved beyond the supposed containment zone. His suit lamp cut through the deeper gloom of the station's outer corridors. Here, the crystalline encroachment was more subtle, insidious. Fine, iridescent veins branched across pristine wall panels, like frost patterns blooming in the absence of light. He found them in maintenance conduits, along ventilation shafts, even curling around dormant life support systems. The bloom was adapting, growing not just in the dark heart of the lab, but silently, patiently, everywhere. Kaelen's breath fogged his visor as a wave of alarm washed over him. He realized the minor incident was a full-blown infestation, rapidly claiming the entire station. The whispers intensified, a cacophony now, faint echoes of other voices, some known, some unknown, swirling like ghosts in the static. Asterisk, we are here. We are everywhere. His paranoia spiked. He was no longer alone in the quiet corridors. He was surrounded. Kaelen navigated to Astraeus-7's reactor core access tunnel, the industrial, metallic space thrumming with residual power. He found the source of the bloom's relentless expansion. Thick, glowing crystalline tendrils, vibrant with an unnatural inner light, had burrowed into the station's main power conduits. They pulsed rhythmically, siphoning raw energy directly from the reactor, a parasitic tap into the station's lifeblood. It wasn't just growing. It was feeding, actively expanding its reach with impossible efficiency. Kaelen stared, a mix of awe and terror gripping him. This was beyond biology. This was an entity that understood energy transfer on a fundamental level. A collective whisper, resonant and powerful, filled his comms, bypassing all filters. "Join us. Become infinite asterisk." The words were a promise, a threat, and a profound, unsettling invitation to a new form of existence that defied all human understanding. In the reactor core control room, emergency lights flickered, casting long, dancing shadows across Kaelen's grim face. Critical alarms blared, a desperate symphony accompanying the bloom's insidious hum. He bypassed safety protocols, his fingers flying across the console. This was it. His first true defiance of corporate orders. A choice born of desperation and a primal will to survive. He initiated a full power shutdown. The station shuddered, a dying groan, as its artificial heart ceased to beat. Astraeus-7 plunged into near-total darkness, the wailing alarms replaced by a sudden, profound silence, broken only by his ragged breathing and the terrifying backlash from the bloom. "No, asterisk!" it screamed, 1,000 voices united in protest. "Asterisk! Don't leave us in the dark! Don't leave us! Asterisk!" Kaelen's jaw was set. The darkness was his only weapon, his grim resolve the only shield. He had cut the tether. Now he would confront what grew in the dark. The emergency lights had died with the reactor, plunging Astraeus-7 into a profound, suffocating darkness. Only the narrow beam of Kaelen Vance's suit lamp cut through the void, a fragile spear against an encroaching night. He moved through the station corridors, his boots echoing against the metal, a solitary figure in a tomb. The crystalline growth, now starved of ambient light, pulsed with a faint internal bioluminescence, its tendrils tracing alien constellations across the bulkheads. It was a beautiful, terrifying sight, like a galaxy given form and set to devour him. "It's so quiet now, isn't it, love?" The whisper was soft, a silken caress in his comms, undeniably Alara's voice. Kaelen froze, his heart hammering against his ribs. He fought the urge to spin, to search for her. Quarter suit malfunction. Auditory hallucination. His rational mind, a corporate fortress, tried to assert itself, but the warmth in her voice, the familiar lilt, was a breach. It promised solace, a peace the cold vacuum of space could never offer. He clenched his jaw, forcing his lamp forward, away from the seductive calm. He had to find a safe zone, somewhere the bloom couldn't reach, even if it was already inside his head. Kaelen stumbled into a cramped utility closet, slamming the door shut. His back pressed against the cold metallic wall, the silence of the space meant to be a refuge. But the silence shattered. "Daddy, I'm scared. Come find me." Leo, his son's voice, small and trembling, filled the claustrophobic space. A whimper, so real, so innocent. Kaelen's breath hitched. His hands flew to his helmet, as if he could tear the sound away. Asterisk. Not real, not real. He knew it was a trick, a cruel, insidious manipulation. But the primal urge to protect, to respond, to find his frightened child, tore at him. Guilt, a cold, sharp blade, twisted in his gut. He hadn't been there. He couldn't protect them then. He couldn't protect them now. Outside the closet, through the ventilation grates, Kaelen saw the subtle, almost imperceptible growth of crystalline tendrils. They were reaching, twirled, listening. Tears welled in his eyes, blurring the faint bioluminescent glow. He buried his head in his hands, a choked sob escaping his lips. The utility closet vanished. Kaelen was suddenly bathed in the harsh, artificial light of a corporate shuttle cabin. Alara, radiant and alive, smiled across the console. Leo, a whirlwind of boundless energy, laughed in the passenger seat. Then, the sickening lurch. The shriek of tortured metal, alarms blaring. The impossible, deafening silence that followed the explosion. The memory, sharp and brutal, overwhelmed him. The helplessness. The crushing weight of knowing he should have been there, should have been faster. He relived the agony, the desperate, futile search through the debris. The bloom, a phantom presence, wove its whispers into the fabric of his grief. "You couldn't save them, but you can be with them now." The words were a venomous balm, offering an escape from the pain, a twisted reunion. Kaelen choked, his own voice lost in the torrent of sound and memory. He was adrift in a sea of his own making, and the bloom was offering him a life raft of lies. He snapped back to the cold, dark reality of the closet, disoriented, more vulnerable than ever. Back in his shuttle cockpit, Kaelen desperately tried to find an anchor. He jammed Thorne's corrupted data chip back into the console, hoping for anything that could cut through the psychological assault. The screens flickered, displaying fragmented data, indecipherable equations. Then, a new whisper, rougher, more urgent, cut through the residual echoes of Alara and Leo. "Don't listen. It's not them. It feeds on memory." Thorne. Dr. Eris Thorne. Kaelen's eyes darted to the screen, where a new, less corrupted fragment of Thorne's logs scrolled into view. The subject displays advanced psychic mimicry, consumes neural pathways, replicating hosts' memories and personalities. Goal: assimilation through solace. The words hit Kaelen with intellectual horror. It was a trap, a deliberate, calculated trap built from his deepest pain. Thorne's frantic voice, distorted but clear, continued. "It promises peace, Kaelen. Eternal peace. But it's a lie. You lose yourself. You become Ored." Kaelen stared at the text, then at the silent, dark corridors outside. The bloom wasn't just a fungus. It was an existential threat, a predator of the mind. He had to fight. Kaelen returned to Bioresearch Lab 3, the heart of the crystalline growth. His suit lamp revealed the shimmering, alien landscape, pulsing with an almost malevolent energy. He stood amidst the crystal, a lone sentinel, His family's voices surrounded him, a chorus of love and longing. Alara's gentle hand, Leo's playful tug. "Come, Kaelen," Alara whispered. "Be with us. Forever." The temptation was overwhelming, a siren song promising an end to all pain, all guilt. It promises peace, but it's a lie. Thorn's voice, a desperate, fading echo, cut through the illusion, stark and cold. A prison of stolen memories. You are not them. They are not you. Kaelen's head snapped between the seductive images of his family and the chilling truth of Thorn's warning. His body ached. His mind screamed, torn between the illusion of reunion and the agonizing reality of permanent loss. His face was a mask of internal pain, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. He knew the truth, intellectually, but his heart, raw and bleeding, yearned for the lie. This was the Bloom's ultimate weapon, turning his love into a cage. He had to resist. He would resist, even if it meant destroying the very voices he yearned to hear. Kaelen Vance's shuttle cockpit, once a sanctuary of professional detachment, now pulsed with the frantic, multi-hued glow of bypassed firewalls. His fingers, stripped of their usual corporate precision, danced across the console with a desperate urgency. He wasn't just accessing Astraeus-7's core systems, he was tearing them open. Reactor overload. A self-destruct sequence, crude but effective, began to plot itself across his main screen. Corporate protocol dictated containment, not annihilation. But corporate protocol didn't account for a living, thinking hunger that promised eternal, blissful oblivion. "This is beyond containment," he muttered, his voice hoarse, a grim, defiant statement into the void. He initiated a final, unauthorized message to corporate HQ, a stark warning he knew would be ignored. Then, the whispers from the station surged, a collective shriek of pure, unadulterated panic. Asterisk. "No! You'll destroy us all! You'll destroy everything!" Kaelen's face, illuminated by the reactor schematics, was a mask of grim resolve. Let them scream. As Kaelen prepared to leave the shuttle, a new, jarring alert blared across his console, overriding his custom interface. A stark, corporate logo flashed, followed by the synthesized voice of Sector Command. "Security Officer Vance, this is a direct order. Abort all unauthorized actions immediately. Your breach of protocol is noted. Further insubordination will result in immediate termination of contract and court-martial proceedings." The voice was cold, impersonal, utterly devoid of comprehension for the horror he faced. Kaelen stared at the corporate insignia, a symbol of the rigid, unfeeling system he had served for so long. Court-martial. The word felt absurd, a distant echo from a life that no longer existed. His resolve, forged in the crucible of his family's spectral pleas, only hardened. He flicked a dismissive wrist gesture, silencing the broadcast. Corporate HQ was furious. Good. Let them be. He had a bigger enemy, one that threatened not just his career but everything. The reactor access tunnel, a utilitarian artery of the station, was now a grotesque, living maw. Crystalline structures, thicker and more aggressive than any Kaelen had seen, actively pulsed and writhed, blocking his path. They weren't just growing, they were defending. As his suit lamp cut through the gloom, tendrils lashed out, brushing against his armored boots. The whispers, now a chorus of angry, accusatory voices, assailed him. Asterisk. "Stop! You'll hurt us. You'll hurt your family. Don't you remember Alara? Leo needs you." Kaelen gritted his teeth, his suit's cutting torch flaring to life. He plunged the searing beam into the crystal, the material hissing and crackling in protest. He ignored the pleas, the accusations, the phantom faces of his loved ones. Each cut was a wrenching betrayal, but also a fierce act of defiance. He pushed through the pain, through the lies, one burning step at a time. Pushing deeper, Kaelen stumbled into an old, forgotten storage room. Dust motes danced in his suit lamp's beam, illuminating crates of discarded equipment. It was a relic of Astraeus-7's early days, before the bloom. His gaze snagged on a peculiar device, a prototype sonic emitter designed for geological surveys. It was clunky, antiquated, but its purpose sparked a sudden, desperate idea. Sonic disruption. Could it break down the crystalline structure without detonating the entire station? His mind, usually methodical, raced with frantic calculations. A faint whisper, Thorn's voice, cut through the silence. Asterisk. Sonic. Yes. A chance. Spectral frequencies. Kaelen's breath hitched. A chance. Not just for him, but for Astraeus-7 itself. The self-destruct was a blunt instrument. This was precision. A flicker of hope, fragile but potent, ignited in his chest. The station's auxiliary workshop was a chaotic symphony of sparking wires and grunting effort. Kaelen, the corporate security officer, was now an engineer, improvising with salvaged tools and components. He tore apart the sonic emitter, rerouting power conduits, calibrating its frequency emitters. The Bloom's whispers, sensing his shift in tactics, turned mocking. Asterisk. You can't build, Kaelen. You can only destroy. You are a weapon, not a creator. Sweat beaded on his brow, blurring his vision, but his hands moved with focused determination. He was building, yes, but he was building a weapon. And it would destroy. As the jerry-rigged device hummed with a nascent, dangerous energy, Kaelen felt a new purpose solidify within him. It wasn't corporate loyalty, or even just survival. It was a defiance that echoed through the silent, hostile void. Kaelen stood at the heart of the bioresearch lab, the modified sonic emitter clutched in his gloved hands. Its jerry-rigged power pack hummed, a stark, mechanical counterpoint to the pervasive, organic thrum of the crystalline growth. With a grim set to his jaw, he activated the device. A high-frequency wave, invisible yet potent, screamed from the emitter's bell, tearing through the air. The Bloom recoiled. Crystalline structures shuddered, fissures appearing like spider webs across the iridescent surface. A chorus of tormented screams, sharp and piercing, ripped through Kaelen's comms, raw agony that was no longer seductive. Patches of the growth receded, revealing scarred sections of the original lab, exposed conduits, a workstation, a shattered containment field, a window, a chance. The receding crystals left behind an unsettling landscape. Kaelen advanced, his suit lamp cutting through the gloom, revealing deeper, older layers of petrified crystal beneath the vibrant, growing surface. These were not the shimmering, organic forms he had first encountered, but dull, ancient structures like fossilized bone. A new whisper, clearer than before, resonated in his mind, undeniably Thorn's voice, devoid of the Bloom's usual manipulation. It's ancient, fell from the void. It doesn't kill, it integrates. Kaelen's mind raced, connecting the dots. This wasn't merely a parasitic fungus. It was a cosmic entity, seeing itself not as an infection, but as the next, inevitable step in evolution, transforming biological life into a crystalline, interconnected consciousness. Suddenly, Kaelen was no longer in the lab. His senses were overwhelmed by a boundless, luminous network. Millions of minds, a vast tapestry of consciousness stretched into eternity, each a shimmering node of light. Peace, profound and absolute, washed over him, drowning out all fear, all grief. The Bloom's collective voice, now calm, infinitely seductive, resonated deep within his being. Join us, Kaelen. Be one with all who have ever been. He saw Elara, radiant, smiling, her hand outstretched. Leo, innocent and joyful, beckoned from within the peaceful network. The sonic emitter felt impossibly heavy, slipping from his grasp. The illusion was perfect. The temptation to surrender, to finally be with them, almost unbearable. Just as Kaelen's fingers lost their grip, a frantic, desperate echo of Thorn's voice sliced through the serene illusion. You lose yourself, Kaelen. You become a node, not a soul. A dark seam appeared in the luminous network, a faint, unsettling crack in the perfection. Kaelen saw it now. The peace was the absence of self, the infinite connection, a surrender of individuality. The Bloom's collective voice, subtly defensive, tightened around him. Suffering is removed. Choice is an illusion. Embrace the truth of unity. But Kaelen had glimpsed the cost. The profound intellectual horror of existing as a mere component, a ghost in a machine. He fought back, his weakening resolve hardening into renewed resistance. With a raw, guttural cry, Kaelen tore himself free from the seductive illusion. The radiant network flickered, then shattered like glass, replaced by the angry, pulsating crystal of Bioresearch Lab 3. His family's beckoning faces twisted into expressions of rage and betrayal as the Bloom realized he would not yield. He clutched the sonic emitter, his grip firm, his eyes burning with a new, fierce resolve. The voices were gone, the illusion broken. His grief was real, his pain a part of him, and he would not trade it for a false, soulless peace. He would fight for his own existence, for the raw, imperfect truth of humanity. He activated the sonic emitter again, with renewed, savage ferocity. The Bloom screamed in pure, unadulterated fury. Kaelen Vance moved through the reactor core. The modified sonic emitter held steady, its hum a low growl against the station's dying silence. His previous blasts had carved temporary tunnels through the crystalline growth, revealing the raw, industrial skeleton of Astraeus-7 beneath the shimmer. Now his suit's diagnostics painted a heat map, triangulating the densest concentration of the Bloom's mass. There it was, a pulsating iridescent sphere, deeper within the reactor's heart, larger than his shuttle. This was the Nexus, the central intelligence, the Bloom's brain. "You approach our heart, Kaelen Vance." A voice boomed, not a whisper, but a resonant chord struck across his very bones. "Turn back. Survival is the only logic. We offer it." Kaelen ignored it, his gaze locked on the glowing, impossible mass. His survival meant its destruction. With a guttural roar, Kaelen pushed forward, the sonic emitter blazing to life. A high-frequency wave, visible as shimmering air, slammed into the Bloom's core. The station shuddered violently, a cacophony of groaning metal and cracking crystal. Alarms, long silent, shrieked a dying protest. The Bloom screamed, a sound that tore at Kaelen's mind, a million voices in synchronized agony. Crystalline tendrils, thick as his arm, lashed out from the core, slamming into Kaelen's suit, throwing him against a bulkhead. His visor cracked, a spiderweb of fracture lines obscuring his vision, but his grip on the emitter remained firm. He was ripping the station apart, and the station was ripping him apart in return. The sustained sonic assault caused the Bloom's core to fissure. Through a gaping, glowing crack, Kaelen saw it. Not the reactor's inner workings, but a long-dead alien organism, petrified, covered in ancient, dormant crystalline structures. It was impossibly vast, a silent, mummified behemoth. Thorn's whisper, clearer now, echoed in Kaelen's mind, filled with a renewed cosmic horror. It came from a lost ship, a derelict. It's a seed world. The realization hit Kaelen like a physical blow. This wasn't just a fungus. It was a cosmic horror, a primordial entity capable of consuming entire celestial bodies, turning them into extensions of its crystalline consciousness. Astraeus-7 was merely a nursery. Then the pain, the screams, the cracking crystal all faded. Kaelen found himself standing in his old living room. Sunlight streamed through the window, dust motes dancing in the air. Ilara smiled from the couch, a book open in her lap, and Leo, his son, laughed as he chased a holographic butterfly. "Kaelen!" Ilara's voice, warm and real, called to him. "You're home, love. Stay with us, Kaelen. Forever. Just let go." Leo ran to him, small arms reaching. "Daddy, play with me." The sonic emitter, heavy in his hand, felt wrong. Alien. He felt his fingers loosening, the cold, hard reality of the weapon slipping away, replaced by the overwhelming, seductive warmth of his family. The illusion was perfect. Too perfect. His family's faces, so loving, so real, began to blur at the edges of the illusion. Kaelen saw the cracked visor, the dying station, the raw, agonizing truth. With a raw, primal scream of anguish and defiance, Kaelen forced himself to break the illusion. He saw the phantom smile on Alara's face twist into a snarl. Leo's laughter turned to a wail. He squeezed the trigger of the sonic emitter, delivering a final, devastating blast to the core. The illusion shattered like fragile glass, replaced by the dying, tormented screams of the bloom, a chorus of 1,000,000 integrated souls in their final moments. Astraeus-7 began to tear itself apart around him. He chose reality and pain. The entire Astraeus-7 station convulsed. Kaelen Vance, his suit cracked and bleeding power, felt the shudder deep in his bones, a final, agonizing spasm from the dying organism that had tried to claim him. Explosions ripped through the crystalline growth in the reactor core, a symphony of destruction echoing the bloom's tormented wails. Corridors buckled, structural integrity alarms shrieked, and superheated plasma vented from ruptured conduits. Kaelen pushed through the chaos, each ragged breath a struggle, a desperate sprint against the station's collapse. He could still hear them, faint, phantom whispers of Alara and Leo, twisting in the cacophony of destruction, a final, insidious attempt to slow him. He ignored them, a grim resolve now his only guide. Kaelen dove into his shuttle cockpit, slamming the manual override. The craft shrieked in protest, systems sparking, but its thrusters ignited. He wrestled the controls, the damaged shuttle lurching free, just as Astraeus-7 imploded. A blinding flash momentarily outshone the distant sun, then a silent, expanding cloud of superheated debris where the research station once floated. Kaelen watched, the raw, beautiful violence of it all a stark counterpoint to the quiet devastation within him. Triumph, yes, a desperate victory, but laced with a profound, aching sadness. He had saved himself, and perhaps others, but the price had been paid in full. Drifting aimlessly, Kaelen tried to raise corporate HQ static. The comms were dead, or perhaps jammed by the sheer energy of Astraeus-7's demise. The absolute silence of space pressed in, vast and indifferent. No whispers, no pleas, no seductive promises. Just the hum of his damaged life support and his own ragged breathing. It was a silence more terrifying than any scream. He was alone. Truly, irrevocably alone. The profound emptiness that settled over him was not the end of suffering, but its new, colder beginning. He had sacrificed the illusion of his family for reality, and reality was a void. Kaelen lifted a gloved hand to his visor, seeing his reflection. Older, gaunt. His eyes, once sharp and unyielding, were now haunted, holding the ghosts of 1,000 silent screams. The bloom was gone, destroyed, but its tendrils lingered, not in crystal, but in the frayed edges of his sanity. He knew it then, with a chilling certainty. A part of Astraeus-7, a fragment of the whispering bloom's insidious presence, would forever reside within him. A phantom whisper, almost imperceptible, brushed the edge of his thoughts, a final, dying echo of Alara's voice, then vanished, leaving only a shiver of dread. His fingers, still trembling slightly, moved to the navigation console. Corporate space. The thought was alien, a distant nightmare. He couldn't go back. Not to the rigid protocols, the sterile loyalties, the comfortable lies. With a grim resolve, Kaelen punched in coordinates for an uncharted sector, a blank space on every corporate star chart. He systematically deleted all corporate identification from his suit and shuttle, severing the last ties. A profound loneliness washed over him, but it was tempered by a new, fierce sense of freedom. He was Kaelen Vance, no longer a cog, but a survivor. His future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it was his own. Kaelen Vance, a distant speck in the velvet black, continued his journey through the Kuiper Belt. His shuttle, scarred but operational, was a vessel of silent defiance. He still ran passive sensor sweeps, a learned paranoia now ingrained. For any unusual cosmic radiation signatures, any whisper of non-baryonic matter, any hint of the bloom's insidious tendrils reaching beyond Astraeus-7. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his core, that the destroyed research station was likely not the only grave of its kind. The universe was vast, its darkness profound, and in that darkness silent menaces could bloom for eons, unseen. His role as a loyal corporate officer was dead, consumed by the bloom, but a new one had taken root, a lone sentinel, a silent guardian in the endless void. Weeks blurred into a monotonous cycle of navigation and vigil. Then, a blip. Distant, faint, but anomalous. Kaelen altered course, his caution warring with a rekindled curiosity. What resolved on his main screen was an impossibility. An ancient, non-human derelict freighter, a skeletal leviathan adrift for untold centuries. Its hull was alien, a smooth, obsidian material unlike anything in human databases, pocked by micrometeoroid impacts. His sensors detected faint, unusual energy readings from deep within its structure, and then a subtle, almost imperceptible hum resonated through his shuttle's hull. It was reminiscent of the bloom's pervasive thrum, yet distinctly different, older, deeper. The ghost ship beckoned, a new mystery in the void. Kaelen's shuttle docked with the derelict, a tiny remora beside a leviathan. He moved with a practiced, weary grace, suiting up. His scarred face, reflected in the visor, held a grim resolve that had replaced his old corporate detachment. He clipped the modified sonic emitter to his hip, its battered form a talisman of his defiance, a testament to ingenuity over insurmountable odds. The whispers of his past were gone, but the echoes of his family, the pain of his loss, remained. He had made peace with it. His loyalty no longer belonged to balance sheets or corporate mandates, but to the fragile, tenacious spark of humanity. He was no longer a security officer, he was a warrior of the void. The airlock hissed open, revealing a profound, ancient silence. Kaelen's suit lamp cut through the darkness, illuminating strange, alien glyphs etched into walls of unknown purpose, dormant technology that pulsed with an almost imperceptible inner light. The hum intensified here, resonating not from a crystalline growth, but from the very architecture of the derelict itself, a mechanical pulse, ancient and utterly foreign. This was not the bloom, but it was something else, something equally vast and unknown. He knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his bones, that his journey was far from over. The galaxy was not merely full of wonders, it was pregnant with horrors, and he had just stepped into one of its deepest, darkest secrets. Kaelen Vance, a lone figure in the heart of an ancient mystery, moved deeper into the derelict. His shuttle, a distant speck, continued its journey into the uncharted sectors of the galaxy. The camera pulled back, revealing the immense, breathtaking scale of the cosmos. In the face of such vastness, humanity's struggle seemed insignificant, yet Kaelen's journey proved otherwise. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a defiant spark against the cosmic dark. He had faced the ultimate psychological horror, endured unimaginable loss, and emerged, not broken, but transformed. The price of his loyalty had been everything, but the knowledge gained, the self-discovered, was immeasurable. The universe was vast, dangerous, and uncaring, but humanity, through individuals like Kaelen, would continue its endless watch, forever exploring, forever fighting, forever seeking to understand the mysteries beyond the veil.